Chances are that you have no idea who Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman are.
That's 100%
Or in that
accurate.
case, sit tight while I fill you in on the details of the shenanigans. And believe me, there's a lot to get through with these two, and most of it's nuts.
Today we're presenting some very serious allegations against Senator Elizabeth Warren.
He kind of looks like a John Schnatter if he was less greasy. John Schnatter's Papa John, the guy who claimed he'd eat 40 full pizzas in like a month or whatever, or a week, whatever the fuck it was. The man who's perpetually covered in oil. They look super similar.
Involved in a very explicit relationship with a male escort who stands to my left side, a decorated U.S. combat veteran, somebody who served our country, a war hero, truly. I don't think this is a funny thing.
Why are they what's going on?
You're probably wondering what's happening here.
Yeah.
What you're watching is footage from a press conference in which Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman promised to expose Senator Elizabeth Warren for an extramarital affair involving this guy, Kelvin Willey, who claimed to be a male escort.
Senator Elizabeth Warren first secured my services from a website called Cowboys for Angels. The site is for attractive young men, as you can see. At the time, Senator Warren wanted not just rough sex, but extensive BDSM play. I'm sure you're quite
Why is this happening?
Sure. She was very sexually adventurous. And Senator Warren engaged in lesbian sex with my friend from high school.
Well, hold on, hang on. What we're going to show you now, is that the sex between our client here and Senator Warren was so violent that he actually obtained scars on his back. You can see 2 scars here.
Oh, he has a triple X tattoo. Like, that's nutty. Xander Cage, baby. His only tattoo is the triple X logo. This is classic Vin Diesel. Ice Cube in the sequel, too.
Was from the Cat o' Nine Tails. That was from Senator Warren's transgressions.
Unbelievable.
Between late 2018 and 2020, Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman held several press conferences to smear major United States politicians with completely fabricated stories. The circus-like spectacle of their attempted Elizabeth Warren smear has all of the common hallmarks of one of their press conferences. Most of them are held in front of Jack Burkman's house. A TV out front displays a graphic pertaining to the event. This one says, Elizabeth Warren, cougar? Their security guard, Louise, stands there looking confused.
Get that guy out of there. He's freaking me out. Get that guy out of there.
Come on.
They bring out an accuser who can barely read the script handed to them without laughing or messing up the details.
Using a lime green strap-on dildo. So I can remember.
Is this supposed to be a comedy routine? Because this is great.
And a crowd of hecklers formed just to mock the living shit out of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, people just saw right through it. I mean, there were continuous lies.
Other common fixtures of these events are a guy playing a banjo.
Hey, you're gonna have to stop with the banjo, or you're gonna be kicked out. Yeah.
Well,
no,
Louise isn't gonna do anything. He hasn't done anything yet.
No, you're gonna have to stop. You're gonna have to stop with the banjo.
Thanks to Yusuf Chevalier and Oasis.
A spread of donuts, a guy in a corn cob costume.
This is amazing. It's like Comic-Con.
And Will Summer, a reporter for the Daily Beast, who was kind enough to talk to me for this video.
Man.
You seem like you're the world's foremost Jacob Wohl expert.
We got carried away. Thank you for the 25 gift subs, Trash.
So why is this interesting? Clearly these guys are just attention-seeking trolls, or a sideshow act, right?
Thanks, Yusuf.
Well, I think it's far more sinister than that. Currently, they're facing legal battles in 3 different states for their antics. Jacob Wohl, who only recently turned 23, has also been hit with unrelated felony charges for fraud. Their actions have only served to irreparably tarnish their reputations. Reputations that were already sullied to begin with. If their intentions have been motivated by their political beliefs, then their smears have only been a detriment to their cause. And
I disagree. I think they've done a great job.
Well, then the joke's on them, since they're both facing the possibility of serious time in federal prison for their latest stunt. What remains unclear to me is why do they do what they do?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
What do they gain? What motivates them to constantly shoot themselves in the foot? That's the point of this video. It's to take a deep look into the lives of two men whose actions just confound me.
I don't think I've ever seen them before.
Hi, I'm Jacob Wohl. I'm running for ASB Treasurer. If you want more dances,
more
spirit days, more lunchtime competitions, and a better treasurer, then you need to vote for me. The way I'll promise more money is to do better fundraisers and better dances that will bring in more money for the school. And
all right, he's got my vote.
Fun for you. These people sure want Jacob to be treasurer.
Jacob Wohl was born on December 12, 1997, in Los Angeles, California. His father, David Wohl, is a criminal defense attorney and media personality. His mother, a social worker. A child of divorce who grew up in Corona, California, Jacob spent his youth shooting guns, playing basketball, and accompanying his father to television news studios.
Oh, he just got fucking dunked on in his own highlight reel. Come on.
It's got one
have mercy.
Caliber slug and 3 double-aught buckshot pellets in here, and we're gonna test it out on.
Thank you for another 10 socks. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
In 2003, his father, David Wohl, joined CBS 2 Palm Springs as a legal analyst covering the trial of convicted murderer Scott Peterson. Following that, he appeared on Fox News as an occasional commentator. Although David Wohl pursued a career as an on-air reporter, his ambitions never quite panned out. These days, he focuses on his career as a lawyer, sharing his conservative political beliefs on Twitter, and posing shirtless in boudoir calendars.
I'd like to read that caption. Not too far. The Breck Worsham official 2020 calendar. I thought this was his own post. Pretty cool. I mean, the dad bods, it's in, man. It's here to stay. MAGA just got hot. Nice. Is this not like a problem for him in like his career? Considering he's like an actual legal lawyer? I feel like posing for boudoir calendars is probably not great. Why would it be? Because they have to maintain like a crazy strict image, don't they? Thanks the resub Mush and the Prime Burger. And the gift sub Punkstar and the resub Dottie and Evie. If Saul Goodman can do it, he can. I guess that's true. Thank you, Trash. I need this man to defend me in court shirtless. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I've seen his nipples now. So that, to me, that screams vulnerability.
Boudoir calendars.
Win, lose. A lot of my childhood came down to winning or losing. And I love
Is that
winning.
true, Trash? God damn,
Today
thank
on
you.
Daily Vice.
Thank you, Trash.
Jacob Wohl is an 18-year-old hedge fund manager who's already made a name for himself in the business.
The origin story of how Jacob Wohl became interested in the stock market is fuzzy, mostly due to his inclination for embellishment. If you take Jacob's word to heart, then he was a financial prodigy who shorted 5 shares of SPY when he was only 8.
My first trade was shorting 5 shares of SPY when I was 8. And,
wow. Hold on, let's back up for a second. Shorting 5 shares of SPY, but who taught you this stuff?
He taught himself.
More, here's
Prodigy.
Mark Meelan, a leading expert in non-correlated investing and journalist who covered Jacob Wohl's early days.
He claimed that when he was 8 years old, he shorted 5 shares of SPY. And can you explain what that is and why you're laughing?
Okay, because I've had kids. An 8-year-old kid, I guess it's possible.
It's not only possible, it happened.
Highly unlikely.
And
if
everyone
you look
clapped.
At Wohl's life, you can break it down into patterns of deception. He had his hedge fund period, but then there was a discernible, repeatable pattern that after he got out of his hedge fund period, he later spiraled into something completely different in the political world, but it followed a lot of the same patterns. Make outlandish statements that are provably false or have a high propensity to potentially be false. and then get into
I'm sure everyone knows it's
degrees
false.
of legal and or regulatory trouble, and then it all blows up on him.
When Jacob was a 17-year-old junior in high school, he parlayed his interest in the stock market to become a commodities trading advisor for average Joes like his gym teacher. The operation was most definitely small time.
Why
but
would
it made for a nice little human interest story for local cable news stations like KTLA, which featured him in a segment called Orange County High School Hedge Fund Manager Earns the Nickname Wool of Wall Street. Wool of Wall Street being an obvious play on the movie Wolf of Wall Street, and definitely a moniker that Jacob assigned to himself.
So I want to get on Monster Energy as an underlying. I'm very competitive and I'm good with numbers, so it's almost a natural.
Excuse me, I'd like to own Red Bull.
Group about 4 months ago.
What do you mean, no?
Classmates as his first investors.
And then it just grew from there to their parents, and then their grandparents, uncles, aunts, you name it. And in general, just people from the community, like teachers, coaches.
Nice job, guys. Nice job.
One of those
keep up the good work.
is Jacob's PE teacher.
Yeah, a little skeptical at first. You know, you're thinking, I mean, it's my first year teaching high school.
Why,
I was 8 years
Shane?
in junior high, so I know the kids are obviously smarter in high school, and I thought, man, well, this might be a genius kid.
Utilizing a value stock picking approach inspired by Warren Buffett, Jacob launched Wall Capital Investment Group, which solicited middle-class clients and promised them the world. And no, I'm not being tongue-in-cheek here. That's what it said in his promotional materials, that he promised them the world. Dude was running a dinky little hedge fund out of his mom's basement, and he acted like he was Gordon Gekko. He even dressed like
was
him,
better.
too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Was there somebody that influenced you, or was there
Gordon Gekko, if anybody?
Really?
Yeah.
So you liked him or you hated him?
No, I liked Gordon Gekko.
Okay.
I always thought he was a cool guy.
Okay.
Greed, for lack of a better word.
Exhibits wonder.
You can categorize hedge funds in a couple different ways. One way is to look at who their investors are. His investors were middle class mom and pop. That's a huge red flag. A hedge fund, generally speaking, is used by institutional investors, very sophisticated investors, and high net worth individuals. The fact that he was soliciting, at that point, his gym investor, he was soliciting a stock investment. So that stock
that doesn't seem like a red flag to me.
SEC regulations. But when he was also soliciting derivatives investments, he was soliciting mom and pop. People who don't.
I don't know shit about hedge funds. When does GameStop come in?
Ins and outs.
Because that's what matters to me.
Derivatives, which can be sophisticated investment tools.
Still in high school, Jacob, who was
Wall's
by no
not
means
preaching
a big
the good
player,
word of
other than
GME.
perhaps in his own mind,
He's not
decided
qualified.
that he was ready for the big leagues. Even though Wall Capital was nothing more than a cute little project funded by adults eager to support a young man's passions, Jacob boasted in promotional material that his firm used a guerrilla warfare mentality towards investing that was able to outperform the institutional giants
I am here to
again
expose the
and
evil.
again. Around this time, Jacob appeared on Fox News
exactly
to
what I'm
promote
doing.
Wall Capital Investment,
Oki
which
is
he had
evil for
taken
trying to say
calling
Wool's not
the
a
most
genius.
revolutionary hedge fund in the world.
In 1975, IBM ran the personal computer game. And if you wanted to have a personal computer, you had to be super rich. Until a young kid named Steve Jobs came around and changed the whole thing. That's what I'm here to do.
Wait a minute. You are going to change the whole.
He's Steve Jobs, dumb asshole.
Change the computing world.
That's what I'm going to try to do, Stuart.
And this actually worked to attract a handful of investors.
How did he
impressed
go
by
from
the
this
17-year-old's on-air
to talking
appearance.
about
And this is
BDSM
where the story
roleplay?
takes a darker turn, because Jacob Wohl decided to scam the ever-living shit out of them.
I see.
So Jacob kind of breaks onto the scene.
So that's how we get there.
Outside of his high school or whatever.
Okay.
His first sort of brush with infamy is when he claims to be kind of this teen hedge fund genius, and he has a couple of these quote-unquote hedge funds. I believe he goes on Fox News. He gets on TV a couple times as kind of this like wonderkind.
Fox News really does
in
bring
reality,
anyone on.
It's basically a fiction. It doesn't really exist, and so he's pitching these investors and he's getting tens of thousands of dollars. But he's not really making the returns he claims he's making.
In March 2015, a man named David Diedrich contacted Jacob after seeing him on TV. When they spoke on the phone, Jacob
baby, these are
grossly
big numbers.
mischaracterized the size and scope of Wall Capital Investment Group. He told Diedrich that it managed 178 accounts and between $9 to $10 million in assets, even though the reality was that Wall Capital had no more than 13 investors
It's
and
pretty
managed
close.
no more than $500,000 in assets at any time.
No,
he also
that's
claimed that Wall Capital Investments
slight
trades had a
exaggeration.
99.5% probability of profit. Jacob described these numbers to Diedrich as textbook trading for Wall Capital. Diedrich sent him a $75,000 investment in 3 different payments between March and October 2015. Months later, Jacob told Diedrich that his investment had grown to $89,000.
Let's go.
But when Diedrich wanted to collect, Jacob only paid him $44,000 after stalling for several days. Less than half of his initial investment and purported
That's pretty
gains.
good.
Jacob told Diedrich that the difference was due to losses. But an investigation by the National Futures Association indicated that his trading account told a different story. He was actually making money, not losing it. The National Futures Association
That's actually
is
shocking.
a self-regulatory
Actually
organization
shocking.
for the U.S. derivatives industry.
He's the chosen
Jacob
one.
became a member of the NFA in February 2016. As a member of the NFA, Jacob was required to comply with their rules in order to continue to operate his commodities advisory firm. So when David Diedrich sent a complaint to the NFA saying that Jacob defrauded him, they launched an investigation.
I think another one of the interesting sub-tracks of this whole story is that
I think what I love most about when Oki does one of these deep dives is he brings on people like this.
As a sheriff to protect investors seriously. And that's when he ran into the NFA, the National Futures Association, which is an independent self-regulatory body that polices the derivatives industry to root out guys exactly like Jacob Wohl. There's this derivatives industry that's very tough regulator. And so what does Wohl do? Wohl goes into that industry.
And makes millions.
How preposterous is that?
The National Futures Association
It's
learned
called
of 2
being
trading
bold.
accounts
He's Steve
controlled by
Jobs,
Jacob
baby.
Wohl. One
Didn't
in
you
the
listen?
name of NEX Capital, and the other in the name of Michelle Wohl, Jacob's mother. The NFA complaint reads, these accounts had a total of approximately $260,000 in deposits, trading gains of approximately $36,000.
This makes me feel extremely unintelligent. Well, here, I'll break down something simple for you. Start an NFT. Hey, millions, baby. Keep in mind, anyone can do it. I bring this up every time. This guy made over $1 million just posting this selfie. He'd take a selfie every day and sold them as NFTs, baby. So if ever you feel dumb when seeing something like this scam, just know, you too can scam people, man. Anyone can do it. It's right there at your fingertips. You just gotta, maybe NFTs, pivot, crypto, something. There's so many ways of scamming. Yeah, maybe you can't manage a fake hedge fund, all right? Okay, barrier to entry there, it's a little high. You have to have, apparently your mom sign off on it, your dad already has to be rich, and your gym teacher's got to be a fucking idiot. And then you actually have to set up with the NFA. Yeah, I can understand a lot of hoops there, but bro, you can take a selfie. You can take a selfie right now and just mint it on the blockchain. It's free. I mean, not for the environment, it's not, but hey, when you're multi-millionaire from selfies, who cares, right? Fuck it. Pollute. There's so many ways to scam.
And about $296,000 in withdrawals. On June 20th, 2016, a team of NFA investigators made an unannounced visit to what they thought was NEX Capital's headquarters. What they found when they visited what Jacob listed as the main office of NEX Capital wasn't what they expected. Instead of an office, they found a residential home, Jacob's father's house. When they rang the buzzer, no one answered.
Oh.
Their emails and phone calls
Too busy
also
making
went
money.
unanswered.
And they have this great report where it's like, you know, we went to the first address he said he had listed for his business.
This guy kind of looks like Jamie
and,
Kennedy.
You know, we see a guy peeking out the window and then he won't answer the door. And then they go to another house and there's a little kid who answers the door. It's supposed to be an office and it's just a little kid and it's presumably like Jacob's brother or something.
That same day, they visited an address Jacob listed as the location of the firm's books and records. What they found there was another dead end. The address took them to an office at La Sierra University, which was closed at the time. So here's where things get even funnier.
But then
David
Jacob
Wohl,
bought it.
Jacob's dad called the NFA team furious with them for what he called stalking his son and threatened to file a report against them with the
What?
LAPD. Additionally, he
What?
argued that the NFA had no authority over his son or NEX Capital, as Jacob had withdrawn his membership earlier that month. This is partially true. Jacob did request withdrawal of his membership from the NFA on June 13, 2016. But the NFA rules state that a request to withdraw membership becomes effective 30 days after the withdrawal request is made.
Have the hedge
It was
fund?
the 23rd of June, and Wohl made his request to withdraw membership on June 13th. So Jacob was still a member and had to comply with their investigation, which is exactly what they informed David and Jacob by email.
Here's the bottom line. There are some exceptions, but by and large, if you sell a commodity investment, offer it to the public, you have to register. Now, if you're just trading commodities, you don't need to register. But if you're selling it, you have to register.
Instead of listening, David Wohl repeated that he had contacted the LAPD, and any attempts to contact Jacob would result in their arrest and prosecution.
Looks like a trustworthy guy.
Their hands tied and Jacob refusing to comply with their investigation, the NFA decided to permanently bar Jacob Wohl and NEX Capital from NFA membership, which effectively meant that he was permanently banned from running a hedge fund that managed futures derivatives trading. This wasn't the only time David Wohl threatened.
How can you just pull out of an NFA if you're managing a hedge fund, right? I didn't even know that was an option. I thought you had to be with the NFA to even have that kind of shit. But I guess it's only one. I'm kind of a fucking idiot when it comes to hedge funds and shit. But I feel like without that, why would you ever trust the hedge fund?
Legal action against someone he perceived as harassing his son. He did the same thing to William Legate, a software developer best known for creating the iOS application Fictitious when he was 14. David Wohl first contacted Legate after he refused to remove tweets about Jacob. David Wohl was particularly upset about a photoshopped image of Jacob Wohl wearing a corncob costume. Corncobbing refers to people who refuse to accept that they have lost a debate and continue to insist otherwise.
Hey Billy, this is David Wohl, Jacob's dad. Hey, we noticed you're back at it on Twitter again, sending out defamatory, actionable tweets, complete lies about Jacob.
Stop having your dad fight for you.
Wits end with you. We are going to file suit. We're going to serve you at your address, apartment. We're done messing around with you. So you can delete those tweets immediately, or you'll be served with suit very quickly. So it's your choice, Bill, William, whatever your name is. But
I hope you kept them up.
Now. There was one profile that had me in what looked like I was wearing a corn costume, like a corn.
What?
A piece of corn.
That's
One
fucking
of Jacob's
silly.
tactics
It's
to
so
solicit
goofy.
investors was to hire models off of Craigslist to reel them in.
How
Jacob
does
would
that
bring
help?
these women along to investment conferences, get
How
them
is that
to flirt
helpful?
with investors. And when an investor took the bait, then Jacob would
I'll
swoop
fuck
in
you if you
and
invest
make a
in
pitch.
Jacob's company.
Jacob hosted a number of websites such as wallgirls.com and MelanieRiosManagement.com, which is the name of a porn star. The main records show that he also registered buyabadbitch.com and buyaslut.com.
Hey, Jacob's a lot of things, but a liar he is not. This man is really committing to it. Buyabadbitch.com. Is that shit still live? And then buy a slut. Why would you ever go to buy a slut when buy a bad bitch is already out there? Feels like they compete with each other. How does this even help too? I want to buy a bad bitch. Oh, you mean in order to buy a bad bitch, I have to somehow put my money into Jacob's company? Oh. Sure.
He told the Daily Beast, quote, "Fake websites and Craigslist ads were posted by trolls of mine in 2016, and I immediately reported them to the FBI. Wallgirls.com featured a section called Wall Girl of the Month. Sometime in the summer of 2016, Jacob uploaded a photograph of a young woman without her consent and described her as one of the newest additions to the agency. That young woman's mother told the Daily Beast
Must
that
have been a
Jacob
troll.
reached out to her daughter, representing himself as a social media manager of Instagram models.
Oh my God.
To make her famous. Jacob then used her photos on wallgirls.com and made her a Wall Girl of the Month.
Yucky.
He eventually took her photos down after her mother called him and told him to do so.
Okay, so at this point, he's banned from the NFA for life, and now Arizona's got him on fraud and misrepresentation charges. I remember going through that whole event. He had been sort of brazen. He's supposed to meet with regulators, and then he posts pictures of himself on Twitter with Instagram models going to Las Vegas. I mean, he was just doing brazen defiance of regulatory authority.
Well, when you're
And then
Jacob,
Arizona
bro,
got
you're
him.
above the law.
He'd ultimately find the police would get him as well out of California. But then Arizona got him. I thought that was going to be the end of him.
On September 27, 2016, the Securities
How are we
Division
only
of
in
the
2016
Arizona
with this
Corporate
guy?
Commission filed its temporary order to cease and desist and notice of opportunity for hearing against Jacob Wohl and his partner, Matthew Johnson,
Things a bit stoic.
barring them from activities in the state. The Arizona Corporate Commission's investigation began after David Diedrich, the same man who sparked the NFA investigation, filed a complaint. This would be the last time that David Diedrich would file a complaint against Jacob Wohl. He later committed suicide. How much it had to do with being defrauded by Jacob Wohl is unknown.
Sure, yeah, so
Well, that got
Arizona
really
investigates
sad.
him for
Jesus Christ.
security sales. He ends up, I believe, pleading out or essentially cutting a deal where he's going to owe tens of thousands of dollars that he still years later hasn't paid back. The most interesting one comes in, I believe, 2019 when Jacob is indicted in California for unlawful security sales over this really kind of tortured story of a guy an adult who seemingly kind of bought into Jacob's hype and lent him tens of thousands of dollars.
I'll never be able to wrap my head around that.
Invested this money through Jacob, and it basically turned out it was all a con, according to the charging documents. And this guy is like, "Oh crap, I need to get my money back," and then the money has disappeared, and so this guy ends up killing himself. And so Jacob has been charged in that case.
May or may
The
not be
Arizona Corporate
correlated.
Commission's filing named 4 investors
Probably
who
didn't
were
help.
victims of Jacob's alleged fraud, false or deceptive claims, and bad acts. David Diedrich was the only investor with a given name on the filing. The rest are referred to as Investor 2, 3, and 4. Investor 2 gave Jacob and NEX Capital a $20,000
good
check
idea,
in early
Lasagna.
December 2015, but stopped payment of the check she had tendered to NEX Capital a month later when she suspected foul play. Investor 3, like Diedrich, contacted Jacob in March 2015 after seeing him on television. Investor 3 gave Jacob $5,000
that
to
sounds
invest
about right.
after being led to believe that he would receive a high rate of return if he invested. By January
They saw him on Fox
2015,
Business.
Jacob only returned a check worth
Gateway
nearly
to getting
$3,000. When Investor 4 contacted Jacob on July 18, 2016, she had just received an inheritance of $100,000. She found a Craigslist ad for Jacob's house-flipping investment firm called Montgomery
Craigslist?
Assets, which Jacob
Why?
started to focus his attention on after being banned from trading derivatives. On the phone, Jacob told her, quote, "Montgomery Assets is quite a large firm. Not ultra-large, it's not Goldman Sachs, it's not Wells Fargo, but it's got a nice solid team." He told her that the firm had 30 years of experience and had been around for a while. Despite
I
the
didn't
fact
even
that
know
he
you could find this kind of shit on Craigslist. Oh, let me look at something real quick. I've only ever bought physical items. I didn't know I could find a business like this. Let me see. Let's see. Now, do they mean like Craigslist ad, like maybe he paid for something on the side of the site? Or quite literally like a real Craigslist ad, like, hey, your money's going to be good with me for this? I have immediately found one almost exactly like it, I think. Yeah, in the jobs and services. I've never even gone there. I didn't even know it existed. I thought you could like only sell items. Well, I knew you could sell services. Like I always knew about like the dark side of Craigslist and shit where you could arrange for sex and shit through it. I guess I just never really thought about the jobs side. That's crazy. I mean, if you're putting that kind of money into something you saw on Craigslist as an investment, you were really asking for it.
made the company only a few months prior.
Additionally,
Additionally, Wohl was only 18 years old at the time, and his partner Matthew Johnson, 27 years old. Perhaps sensing that the investment promises Jacob Wohl was making were too good to be true, Investor 4 never sent him a check. The Arizona Corporation Commission charged him and his companies with 14 counts of securities fraud. The commission found that neither Wohl nor his companies were licensed as a broker and therefore were not permitted to provide investment advice or register to offer and sell securities in Arizona. Additionally,
they
found that Jacob Wohl
so
repeatedly misrepresented the size of his companies and the risk associated with investments. Jacob Wohl consented to fines and penalties assessed by the Arizona Corporation Commission later that year. Now, he could have went to prison for securities fraud if he didn't agree to file a consent decree. Instead, he was only fined. However, to this date,
Which means nothing
Jacob
because his
Wohl
dad's rich.
still hasn't paid his fines.
Oh.
The ACC is now working with the Arizona Attorney General's office to pursue collection efforts against Jacob
He's
Wohl.
gonna swish.
On October 23, 2017, the ACC held an open meeting in which the board questioned Jacob Wohl's lawyers about the outstanding payments and if Wohl would ever pay his fines.
Can I make one comment?
Before you do.
Okay.
Commissioner Dunn, are you comfortable with that?
No, I think we should ask the
just tell him
counsel
no.
here that his
Fuck
client
him.
is willing to agree to this. I'm wrestling with this too. If there's been a second default of payment on this, I'm wondering why we're going through this exercise and why you think your client is going to be able to make payment just on a later date if he's not able to make a payment today.
I do not believe that there was an original
In July 2016, Jacob Wohl was contacted by undercover authorities posing as a real estate agent and as a client who wanted to invest money. After multiple conversations, Jacob Wohl asked
This
them
dude's
to
whole
invest
life was,
$100,000 with his
scamming.
house flipping company,
Wow.
Montgomery Assets, and guaranteed a 17% return of investment. 3 years later, on August
Goddamn.
19, 2019, a warrant was issued by the Riverside County DA's office for Jacob Wohl's arrest for one
Please do
count of
subject.
violating the California Corporations Code by selling an unregistered security. That same day, Jacob was taken into custody. He pleaded not guilty and is currently awaiting a settlement hearing.
So when does
which has
the
been
BDSM
postponed
shit
due to
come in?
COVID-19. Jacob's dad, David Wohl, said, "The district attorney never bothered to talk to Jacob. If they did, I don't believe the case would have been filed. I'm very disappointed, given my 30 years of experience with that office." Jacob has zero criminal history and was shocked by this as well. According to David Wohl, Jacob learned about the warrant for his arrest through the media.
He's a
Okay,
tier one
last but
Big
not
Mac.
least, Jacob Wohl was investigated by the SEC. Jacob Wohl was the subject of
Oh,
a
what do
year-long
they know,
investigation
though?
by the United States Security and Exchange Commission. The SEC concluded that they found no grounds for enforcement action.
What?
However, Victoria Levin, an assistant regional director in the SEC's
What?
enforcement division, stated that their conclusion must in no way be construed as indicating that the party has been exonerated or that no action may ultimately result from the staff's investigation.
What does the SEC do
In an
then?
email, Jacob Wohl told Benzinga.com that, quote, "I know very well I have never done anything illegal or immoral."
Everything I've ever heard about the SEC is how useless they are. Have they ever done anything helpful? I feel like I've looked this up on stream 3 or 4 times now. Did I ever conclude that they've ever find a case that they've actually helped with or done anything useful with? How about this? Times SEC. Let's see. Oh, on their website. SEC accomplishments. Oh, look at this. They're gloating a couple of their big wins. Oh man, that's huge. How about something outside of the SEC's own ass kissing? SEC had to ban Pornhub on their servers because literally everyone was just watching porn during work hours. What? Thanks for some swag, daddy. Is that real? Oh well, I don't know what I was expecting. I typed in SEC porn, and all I get is Pornhub X videos and shit like that. Let me click news. April 23rd, 2010. SEC staffers watched porn as economy crashed. And then in 2021, a follow-up. The Pornhub SEC meme was real, and then there was a link to proof. So apparently there was some kind of epidemic at the SEC where their workers were constantly watching porn. Several senior staffers. So I guess it's a little insincere to claim everyone was, but it seems several senior staffers were watching a lot of porn. So needless to say, they're fucking killing it. SEC's good. They're doing a good job, I guess.
You serious?
Before I talk about how Jacob Wohl pivoted from a life of petty financial fraud into becoming a political smear merchant, I'd like to introduce you to his partner, Jack Burkman.
I totally forgot there was another actor here with them. There's no way Jack Burkman's story is as interesting as Jacob's.
Grid, our former Clinton White House staffer David Goodfriend, and Jack Burkman, attorney at J.M. Burkman and Associates.
Hey,
and
Burkman.
You know how it works, guys. 20 seconds to make your case, and then we go at it after that. Jack, you probably don't even need 20 seconds to tell us why you don't think it should be expanded.
Jack Burkman was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Strangely, he has not publicly disclosed his exact birthday, but he was likely born in either 1965 or 1966.
He's part of the secret space program.
After graduating from Georgetown
Comes
with
full
a law
circle.
degree, he enjoyed quite an accomplished professional career beginning in the 1990s. He worked for Rick
Thanks, Yusuf
Lazio,
Cypher.
a New York congressman, as his legislative counsel. Following that, he worked as a lobbyist and later joined the prestigious firm Holland & Knight. After that, he started his own lobbying firm, J.M. Burkman and Associates, which prospered. However, midway through the 2010s,
I feel like I've heard
Jack
of that.
Burkman became bored with lobbying. For some reason, he decided that what he really wanted was media attention at any cost. In 2014, he gained the attention he desired by saying he wanted openly gay football players banned from the NFL after Michael Sam, who at the time was a college football star, announced that he was gay.
Now, local lobbyist Jack Burkman plans to propose legislation banning gay athletes from joining the National Football League. Tonight we have Jack live in the newsroom. Jack, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Good evening.
Good evening. So what is this about,
So
Jack?
what the fuck is
Some are
up with
already
that,
calling this a
Burkman?
stunt.
No, hardly a stunt. It's about restoring common decency, Mike.
Jack's brother James, who's gay, denounced his actions with a tweet stating that he was being an ass. Soon, Jack's campaign to ban gays from the NFL fizzled. But according to his brother James, he got exactly what he wanted: attention. In 2016, Jack Burkman gained media attention again by inserting himself in Seth Rich's murder investigation.
Now to our top story. An Omaha family is grieving tonight after their son was shot and killed in Washington, D.C. over the weekend.
Seth Rich was born and raised in Omaha. He worked for the Democratic
Why would
National
Burkman be
Committee
part
in
of this?
DC.
Seth Rich was a 27-year-old DNC staffer who was shot on early Sunday morning on July 10, 2016, while walking home from a bar. A police investigation suspected that he was the victim of a botched robbery, but dubious rumors spread that he was assassinated for leaking Hillary Clinton's emails. Jack Burkman offered a $130,000 reward to anyone with information about Seth Rich's murder. He posted flyers announcing the reward around the Bloomingdale neighborhood where Seth Rich was shot. He also contacted Seth Rich's family and held a press conference with them.
Hi, I'm Jack Burkman. Today I want to talk to you about something very important, the murder of Seth Rich. As you may know, I have formed an independent commission to investigate this murder, but we need more information.
Why?
We need to
Why?
hear from you. Please check
Why would
out
you
our
tell
website,
fucking Jack Burkman?
whokilledseth.com.
But soon, his relationship with the
It's
family
gonna be nothing but
soured.
lies.
They called him a publicity seeker and were especially disturbed by his decision to film a reenactment of Seth Rich's murder.
Save your breath. Turn around. Walk. Walk.
You don't want to do anything.
What are you doing?
Deciderman. Wow, Burkman. You've really done it. Did Darman make this? Somehow Jack Burkman is
They
goofier
cut
than
contact
Jacob.
with him shortly after that. Jack Burkman continued to investigate the murder. He teamed up with a former Marine named Kevin Doherty to help solve the case. The two later had a falling out, and Kevin Doherty shot him twice in the ass and tried to run him over with a car.
Burkman says he went to the Keybridge Marriott's parking garage to pick up documents from someone he thought was an FBI whistleblower. But this is where things get interesting.
I wasn't expecting anything bad, and bang, 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 I feel 2 shots in my leg.
Then the police say Burkman was hit with an SUV.
By some miracle, a girl who was on the second floor there,
What?
staying there, flung open the window and screamed, and that's probably what saved my life because he then reversed course, skedaddle.
This guy's like living fanfic. And then everyone clapped. Holy shit. Yeah, somehow Jack Burkman is goofier than Jacob. And fucking substantially so. Hopefully he also claims that he did Secret Service work or part of the secret space program, something like I can't talk about my training. In fact, I was actually about to kill the driver of the SUV myself, but the lady flung open the windows and I didn't want to subject her to such trauma after I ripped his head from his shoulders, so I let him drive away.
Hang on, you said there's a lot of young people your age that are sort of closeted Trump supporters. Tell me about them. You're 18.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that, sort of
Easy
support
gifts of
Trump.
the Sederman,
They're not
recent
very
Jason,
vocal about
Prime
it.
Maker.
And, you see in this case, Cruz has this, very real penchant towards lying, very Hillary-esque.
He's sick, right?
And he's being called out for it.
So where does a spurious crook go after being banned from training securities at the age of 19? Well, the world of online politics, where grifters with the morality of executioners tend to shine. The wave of Donald Trump spawned many online personalities bereft of any qualifications other than a Twitter account and an ability to pander to all things MAGA. The movement was littered with unscrupulous characters like Candace Owens, who emerged on the scene after she identified the earning potential of the Trump bandwagon, despite the fact that she ran a site doxing trolls who made offensive comments online that exact same year. It's likely that Jacob Wohl witnessed the rise of people like Candace Owens and wanted a piece of the pie. It was around 2017 that Jacob Wohl made this career pivot. Instead of presenting himself as a financial guru, he decided to become an online political commentator. He started live streaming on YouTube, recording a podcast, and he created a blog called The Washington Reporter, which branded itself as a producer of independent journalism and hard-hitting investigative reports. And it was later discovered that his website's code of ethics was directly plagiarized from ProPublica. A simple way to look at how he marketed himself at this time is just to look at his Twitter bio.
He's busy having sex.
His Twitter account featured a bio that read, Trumponomics expert, financial and political commentator. His banner was a photo of him posing with Donald Trump at a photo op.
How rich was his dad?
Well,
God damn.
his father, David Wohl, was a Donald Trump surrogate, which is probably how he got the opportunity to meet the former president. Jacob grew his Twitter following by rapidly responding to all of Donald Trump's tweets with sycophantic praise. His over-the-top fawning caught the eyes of the former president. Donald Trump retweeted Jacob Wohl back when it was uncharacteristic for him to do so. And I gotta say, this was very, very uncharacteristic for Donald Trump to do at the time. He never retweeted anybody. But here he was retweeting Jacob Wohl, and that got him a lot of attention. So much attention that articles were written about Jacob Wohl, wondering who he was. It was after being retweeted by Donald Trump that Jacob declared, I will further the president's agenda at all costs, and I won't apologize for it. So basically, Jacob Wohl was Donald Trump's #1 bootlicker, reply guy, ass kisser. Perhaps you're not familiar with the term reply guy.
When does he start doing the BDSM?
It's fairly self-explanatory. It's someone who constantly replies to someone else's tweets. Before Donald Trump was suspended from Twitter, there were several accounts that you'd always see in his replies. These people tended to be either Trump devotees or Trump detractors. So they'd reply to every single tweet that Donald Trump made and gain thousands of likes and thousands of followers doing so. It was an incredibly effective way to grow a brand. Perhaps their intentions were sincere, but it's clearly a strategy that many use to gain exposure. Take the Krasenstein brothers, for example.
Who?
Two brothers from Florida who amassed hundreds of thousands of followers by replying to every Donald Trump tweet with some variation of Orange Man bad. Like Jacob Wohl, the Krasensteins had a history of fraud before getting into online politics. The Department of Justice seized over $500,000 of their money and assets because they ran a Ponzi scheme and committed wire fraud. Years later, the Krasenstein brothers became lightning rods of the hashtag resistance to Donald Trump movement. And they basically used this to grow a following and make money. They made an anti-Trump children's book called How the People Trumped Ronald Plump. And they also made a website called Hill Reporter. But their success was a flash in the pan. Soon they were booted off Twitter in 2019 for operating multiple fake accounts and purchasing account interactions. Jacob Wohl and the Krasensteins are two sides of the same coin. Opportunists. Opportunists with a history of fraudulent activity who benefited off of people's sincere political beliefs for personal gain. And just like Jacob Wohl, the Krasensteins are just seen as a big joke. Another way that Jacob Wohl gained a lot of attention online were his hipster coffee shop tweets. Basically, the premise of these tweets were that he overheard liberals in a hipster coffee shop whispering about secretly supporting Donald Trump. These tweets were so widely mocked that there's a Know Your Meme page about them.
So I think Jacob's kind of breakout moment on Twitter was that he would always tweet. He came up with this kind of trope.
I never saw the coffee shop tweets, but I believe him.
At a hipster coffee shop, and it was kind of counterintuitive for what you might think would happen there. So it would be something like, and it was always like a very niche thing. It was like, I was just at a hipster coffee shop, and I heard two people talking about how thrilled they are that Trump is pulling out a trans-Pacific partnership. Like, it was very specific things that, like, surely you wouldn't hear this. And then he just kept tweeting it all the time. And so, you know, it kind of became a meme on Twitter. And he, as we would later find out with other Jacob things, he has.
I don't think this guy's a psycho. I think he's just a fucking idiot who believed in. So he just never stopped thinking he was right.
He's clearly lying through his teeth.
Well, I mean, he had a whole history of scamming way before the politics.
It's unclear how Jack Burkman and Jacob Wohl first met, or why they decided to
create
create
fake
fake smears
smears
against major politicians
well, he had
who
a
they
whole
considered
fake
to be
hedge fund.
enemies of Donald Trump. In media appearances, Jacob has given explanations ranging from meeting at pro-Trump events to him being recruited by Jack Burkman due to his investigation skills and business savvy. If cancel culture created an environment where everyone is guilty until proven innocent, then in theory, all they had to do was create a false accusation to ruin someone else's life. It's a tactic.
He's not a scammer, he's a good businessman. He is by definition a bad businessman and a scammer. He got immediately blasted and barred forever from the NFA, meaning he could never operate the hedge fund again and didn't make any money out of it aside from like the little bit he got from the first guy who ended up killing himself. So he was not only a shitty scammer, but he was also a shitty businessman too. So I don't know where you're getting that from. Like so far everything he has tried, he has failed at. As of this point. He did scam people, but he didn't make much off of it. He could still suckle his daddy's teats because his dad had so much money. And so far that's exactly what he did. That's pretty much where he's gotten all of this position of power from, because his dad has so much money that keeps defending him. He hasn't done anything on his own yet. Successfully.
Tactic that political hatchetmen have been using throughout history. For example, the 7th president of the United States, Andrew Jackson, was accused by his political opponents of being the son of a prostitute and a black man. Baseless smear campaigns could be a very effective political tool, but as you'll soon learn, not when wielded by Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman. Pay close attention because their Robert Mueller smear was as needlessly convoluted as it was sublimely stupid.
And so in, I believe, the fall of 2018, Jack has teamed up with Jacob. And the circumstances here are still a little confusing of how they teamed up. But they team up and they say, we have a woman who was sexually assaulted by Robert Mueller 10 years ago. And, you know, this is going to be a big deal. And
they make a spectacle out of it, like the first one?
These guys as kind of like scurrilous characters.
As Resurviving.
But they didn't think of them as like guys who are just have no credibility whatsoever, just completely going to lie. But quickly, this thing starts to fall apart.
Oh god, I hope they did a whole song and dance out of it like the BDSM one. That's what I really want to see.
It began on October 19th, 2018. On that day, Jacob Wohl tweeted, "Spoke to a prominent DC insider today who told me that there are several women prepared to make credible allegations against dirty cop Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was a former director of the FBI and was appointed as special counsel to a highly publicized investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 election." That same day, Jack Burkman posted this video onto his Facebook page.
Hey guys, we're here to talk about Robert Mueller and his sexual abuse, and is he an alcoholic? Is he an alcoholic?
A day later, he said that he had witnesses that claimed Robert Mueller is a drunk.
It's like a car
He also
salesman.
said that he talked to 7 women who claimed to have been harassed by Robert Mueller, and that one woman might come forward.
He carries around a flask, he carries it and drinks straight booze. Even more serious, it appears that Bob Mueller has really a whole lifetime history of harassing women. We have now talked to 7 women who claim to have been harassed by Bob Mueller.
Prior to this, a woman named Lorraine Parsons emailed several reporters that a man who claimed to work for Jack Burkman offered her $20,000 and a payment of her credit card debt if she agreed to make up accusations of sexual misconduct against Robert Mueller.
I want to read a little of this. How does a bribe offer work? Damn. Offered to pay off the credit card debt down to the T. There's no way they ever think this shit would work though, right? Well, I mean, I guess it probably does at some point. But like, they could just take the money and then release the email. Like, if someone's like, Charlie, hey, I'll give you 20 grand if you say fucking Jack Burkman has a scat fetish. I know you met Jack Burkman at a hipster coffee shop one time. I'll give you 20 grand if you say you saw him go out back and he had a lady shit on him. Be like, yeah, sure, yeah. Take the 20 grand, I make my statement, and then I post this the next day. Like, what's there to protect them? I could just do both. I could have my cake and eat it too. Yeah, I mean, I guess they could send over I haven't finished reading it, so maybe there is something about an NDA at the bottom. I mean, I guess signing the affidavit, but that doesn't mean that she can't also release the email, right? Unless maybe I misunderstand how the affidavits work. Because you could literally do both. Even if there is an NDA, it wouldn't do anything because it's illegal. Yeah, true, I guess. True. So there's really nothing they can do to cover their ass. You could just take the 20 grand and just say, they paid me to say it. And I got 20 grand.
Who she said she worked with at a law firm in 1974. Now, do you remember?
Isn't accepting the bribe kind of... Wait, isn't accepting the bribe illegal? I mean, I guess making a false statement would be. But if you could just prove that you were coerced into it, and then just say, they forced me to take the 20 grand too. It's like, there's plenty of wiggle room. You could absolutely make a case. Though, I mean, it is obviously cleaner just to not do it. But if you just really want that 20 grand, you could absolutely argue the shit out of it.
Remember how I said that this smear was needlessly convoluted?
Hey, thanks for the raid, Liana.
Well, later it turned out that Lorraine Parsons
Hope you had a great stream.
didn't
Thank you for the
exist.
raid again.
She was a fabrication by Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman. And the reason they did that? Who knows? Journalists tried to contact the law firm that she said she worked at, but there was no record that she ever worked there. She said she lived in Fort Myers, Florida, but that also couldn't be corroborated. At the same time, a law professor named Jennifer Taub also received an email from a man named Simon Frick, who claimed to have worked for a firm called Surefire Intelligence. By the way, unlike Lorraine Parsons, Jennifer Taub is actually real.
You'll see something
Simon
goofy
Frick,
here
on the
soon.
other hand, was not.
Simon Frick.
The name on the email was Simon Frick, but someone named Jacob Wohl.
They did the same
has later
scam 10
admitted that
times.
He's behind that organization. This other person, Lorraine Parsons, no one's really sure if she exists. So what's interesting is the story broke about her because she'd been sending someone using that name, sending this email around to folks, and has never been able to be contacted.
identified.
Right. So it's all a very strange situation.
Anyway, Simon Frick offered her payment to speak about
How
past
can you not
encounters
trust
she
Simon
might have had
Frick?
with Robert Mueller. Jennifer Taub has never met Robert Mueller. After receiving the email, she reported it to the FBI, and they started an investigation.
After I found out about the Lorraine Parsons situation, I began to wonder whether they had reached out to me because I had written an opinion piece about.
Hey, well, thank you, Trash. I hope you have a good
Kavanaugh
rest of your
hearings,
night.
my own personal experience.
Hope you had a good Valentine's Day.
With sexual assault. So perhaps they read that and thought, well, she wrote about this. Maybe she'll make up stories.
The firm, Surefire Intelligence, which Simon Frick said he worked for, was a bogus private intelligence agency made up by Jacob Wohl.
Does it still exist? Can I hire someone from the Surefire Intelligence Agency to investigate for me? Let's see. Oh my god, it's still around, baby. In all its glory. It's a private intel agency. Who we serve. No one specific, just general, just general statements. Who we serve, law firms, financial institutions, international corporations, and high net worth individuals. But like, who specifically? Who we serve. God. Case studies. Wow. Yeah, I might have to, maybe I'll have to hire them. Give them a case to solve. I mean, obviously there's no one actually running the site anymore since Jacob is in hot water. But maybe when he gets out of jail in 20 years or something, he could check and be like, all right, time to actually use surefire intelligence. Oh, looks like Charlie's got a case from back in 2022. Nice.
The day before the press conference, they say, you know, we had this investigated by this company called Surefire Intelligence. It's like a very elite, spy service essentially, but not quite. You know, someone called Surefire Intelligence's phone number, which went to Jacob's mom's voicemail.
Thanks, Schwalbe.
Suggesting that Jacob was in fact behind it. A lot of the pictures of
What an
Surefire
oversight.
Intelligence employees were in
Mom,
fact
I need your phone.
actors and models that he clearly just pulled. It was like Bar Raffaelli, like Leonardo DiCaprio's ex-girlfriend. And in fact, the picture of the head of Surefire Intelligence on his LinkedIn, if you brightened it, it was just a picture of Jacob. It was like a very shadowy picture, and it's just a picture of him. So clearly the scheme had already kind of...
That's such a Jacob thing to do.
Jacob Wohl set up Surefire Intelligence as an LLC a month before the Mueller smear. But he used it before then to scam people out of petty amounts of money and to pick up girls. Jacob
What?
had a history of using the alias
How?
Michael Cohen. As Michael Cohen, Jacob presented himself as a 25-year-old Harvard dropout, an ex-Mossad agent who was the leader
Wow.
of Surefire Intelligence. Prior to the Mueller
Pretty
smear,
cool.
Jacob made Craigslist
Definitely got some
advertisements
pussy out of
offering
that.
private investigation services through Surefire Intelligence. And some
Maybe
people
do something
took the
trash.
bait. A young woman named Julian Adams found an advertisement on Craigslist for Surefire Intelligence's services and gave Jacob $1,200 to recover her stolen Hummer, which she had lived out of for the previous 2 years. To Julian, Surefire Intelligence seemed legit.
How?
It had a sleek
How?
website, an impressive roster of investigators, and there was a Medium post about it called Surefire Intelligence, the CIA for hire for the rich and famous. The Medium post claimed that Surefire was made up of a staff of ex-Mossad agents, which included forensic accountants, former intelligence professionals of various nationalities,
Okay.
cyber specialists, and a translator fluent in 8 languages. The article was written by Evan Goldman,
Who doesn't
claimed to be
exist.
an Israeli journalist covering the shadowy world of private intelligence. Unsurprisingly, Evan Goldman did not exist. Evan Goldman was just another example of a fictitious identity created by Jacob Wohl. A reverse Google image search showed that
How
his
did this guy
profile
even have
picture
time
was stolen
to
from
get
a model
laid?
named Oren Katan.
When he made
A
1,000
Texas oil
fake
heiress
sites
named
and
Carolyn
people.
Cass was also duped by Jacob Wohl and Surefire Intelligence. Carolyn had fallen on hard times after being swindled by her trust fund officer and then being scammed out of her inheritance by a social media manager who promised to make her a pop star. After filing a case against the social media manager, she sought out a private investigator. So she looked on Craigslist. There she found Surefire Intelligence and a man named Michael Cohen, which was Jacob Wohl's alias.
Who
Jacob
goes
agreed
to
collect dirt on
Craigslist
the
for this
social media
shit?
manager and charged Carolyn $2,000 for his services. Carolyn pawned the title of her car to pay him. Several weeks later, Jacob informed her that he was going to drop the case as it was too expensive for him to proceed. Despite her disappointment, she didn't complain. Perhaps because by then, the two had already formed a romantic relationship. They dated for several months. For most of the time that they were together, Carolyn believed that Jacob was Michael Cohen, who was a Harvard dropout and ex-Mossad agent. On October 30th, 2018, Jack Burkman announced that he'd reveal the first of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's sexual assault victims
Holy
at a press
shit.
conference to be held on November 1st, 2018 at the Rosslyn Holiday Inn.
On Thursday, high noon, at the Holiday Inn right here in Arlington, Virginia, right behind me, only about 1,000 yards that way, we will unveil the first of the
Thank
sex
God he's
assault
making it a
victims of Robert
spectacle.
Mueller.
Jacob Wohl made a similar announcement on his Twitter. By then, many journalists were already onto their ruse. They already discovered Surefire Intelligence's connections to Jacob Wohl. Even though everyone knew that they were the ones behind the Robert Mueller smear, Jacob Wohl and Jack Burkman denied any wrongdoing and declared that they would still go forward with the press conference. The Gateway Pundit, a website that's known for promoting fringe conspiracy theories, interviewed Wohl and Burkman and released a video that's since been scrubbed from the internet. During the interview, the duo claimed that their allegations were credible and well vetted. They provided the Gateway Pundit with a document which they said proved the allegations against Robert Mueller, and the document was published onto the site. Hours later, the Gateway Pundit removed the document, recanted the story, and announced that they would investigate Jacob Wohl. With Wohl and Burkman's smear already debunked before they held a press conference, you'd think that they'd have a great plan up their sleeve to make the whole thing seem legitimate.
We'll just do the
answer
press
is
conference, as is.
Instead, they proceeded to mess up even more.
Fuck yeah.
The person they chose to pose as Robert Mueller's victim
Oh
was none
my
other
God.
than Caroline Cass, the Texas oil heiress I spoke about earlier, who was romantically involved with Jacob Wohl. One night while speaking to Jacob on the phone, Caroline told him that she'd been date raped by a former employer in a hotel room several years prior. Naturally, Jacob consoled her and thanked her for trusting him enough to share that with him, right? No, that's not what he did. Instead of doing what someone with a soul would do, Jacob used the details of her story to write a script for her to read at the press conference where she would accuse Robert Mueller of sexual assault. Jacob offered her $50,000 to make the false allegation and promised to give her an alias so that her real name would never be mentioned to the press. Moreover, he assured her that he was in contact with other Mueller victims who were hesitant to come forward. She believed that she would be the catalyst for them to do so and would be hailed as a hero as a result. Before traveling to the press conference, Caroline Cass saw a story on her newsfeed that was about Wohl and Burkman. Still under the impression that his name was Matthew Cohen, she asked him who Jacob Wohl was. He then told her that he didn't know.
Yeah, no,
At the
Jacob Wohl
airport,
doesn't
the
exist.
ticketing agent referred to him as Jacob
The boogeyman.
after seeing his ID. She questioned him once again, and he told her that it was just an alias that he was using for the day. She finally realized that Michael Cohen was Jacob Wohl after seeing him look at his social media while she pretended to be asleep on the plane.
How did
When they
she
landed
never
in Washington,
once see
Caroline
that?
escaped, booked a flight to New York, and called him to tell him that she wouldn't go through with the press conference. Although Wohl and Burkman had promised to bring forward an accuser, they decided to go ahead with the press conference despite not having one. The documentary After Truth, Disinformation, and the Cost of Fake News features a segment that follows Wohl and Burkman on the day of the press conference. I can't show you clips from it because of copyright, but I'll put the link in the description below.
That is so fucking baffling to me how
And,
people
you know, I think there were
wouldn't pick
still
up
some
on
people
that.
who were, you know,
When it only took one
you don't want to
time
round
that his
somebody,
ID
you know,
got looked at and she heard the name Jacob.
And so the big question was who this woman was going to be, and so they had kept her identity secret. And then, you know, there were some flaws already in their
Is it
timeline
prime
of when this
decimal?
happened. But they get up there and they don't have their accuser, and I say, well, where's the accuser? And they say, well, she got so many death threats, you know, she didn't want to come. And I said, well, none of us know her name. And then, you know, so HBO had a video, and HBO had them mic'd up. And then they go down the hall and they say, oh, geez, that's a really good point. You know, I guess we need to change our lie-up. So then they come up, and this thing is just a disaster of a press conference. Their accuser doesn't show. She later says they put her up to it, and it's all lies. She had been dating Jacob. It's a very kind of twisted story. Jacob, they have an affidavit that they release with her name, but it's misspelled throughout. Kind of disastrously, Jack's fly is down the whole time during the press conference, which, you know, people are tweeting his flies down, all this stuff, you know. And yeah, it was a big mess. I mean, someone in the crowd.
I wish he was just hanging dong.
We'll take one more question. And
Just no one told him though.
Are you ready to go to prison? And I said, oh, you know. And so they kind of essentially have to flee their own press conference. So yeah, I would say Jacob's first big foray into politics did not go great.
After the smear fell apart, surprisingly, Caroline Cass became involved in a relationship with Jacob Wohl once again. He never told her why he lied about his identity, and he never repaid the money he bilked from her. Despite that, they continued their relationship for the next few months until Jacob dumped her because he didn't want to tell his friends that he was dating a 34-year-old. That's when she decided to tell her story to the press. There's a great article written by Lexi
What a
Mandel
weird reason.
that goes over Caroline Cass's story.
Does
in
he
far
usually
more
just date
detail.
high schoolers?
The link is in the description box below. So that's it for
I
part one
can't
of this
believe
series.
that's just
In
part
two, I'll
one.
cover Wohl and Burkman's several other smears. Believe it or not, things even get crazier, so stay tuned for that. In the
That's
meantime, check
fucking
out my
nuts.
Patreon. For only $1, you'll get early access to my future videos 2 days before I upload them to YouTube. To keep tabs on what I'm up to, follow me on Twitter. I also have an Instagram and a subreddit. Links are in the description box below. That's it for now, and until next time.
Watch it, please. It's already 2 a.m. Maybe next time. I'm gonna send Oki a message, though. This one was a fucking banger. Oki just doesn't miss. I'd never even heard of these two guys before.